Hello there, good evening and welcome. This is Strong and Sassy on your superstation Joy 99.7 FM. My name is Animwaa Anim-Addo and I'll be here with you until 8 o'clock. Now, as you're aware, this month is Ghana month and it's also, we had International Women's Day, and we decided that we were going to use the rest of the month to celebrate resilient Ghanaian women. So that's what we've been doing. We've had some pretty amazing conversations so far. And tonight, I'm super excited because I'm sitting down with one of my oldest friends, but also a woman who has made her mark, is still making her mark on all of us in different ways. Whether it's on social media, whether it's through her interactions in the corporate world, or through her advising and consultancy businesses. I'm sure one way or another you probably have come into contact with my guest for tonight. So once again, you're warmly welcome. This is Strong and Sassy, and tonight we're having a conversation about resilience and getting through the difficult times and what it takes really to be a resilient woman in Ghana, which I suspect is a little bit more resilient than than maybe other places in the world. All right, so welcome, Golda Naa Adaku Addo. Hello.
Thank you for the blazing introduction.
Yes. Ooh. You're welcome to Strong and Sassy.
Thank you.
It's weird to welcome you to Strong and Sassy because we've been together the whole day.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. So I wanted to talk to you tonight because I know you. Mm-hmm. And so I've been privy to a lot of rare and intimate moments. Mm-hmm. And so I know what the journey has been like. Yeah. And I thought that it's definitely a story worth sharing. Right. Because you inspire me. So I'm sure there are lots of people who listen who would need that inspiration, but also people who maybe want answers on some aspects of your life, right, because some parts of your life have been public. Right. So, circle back to a few years ago. I woke up one beautiful morning, decided to spend some time in the bathroom reading, going on social media, going through Facebook happily, and I see a post. And this post had me in tears, took me by surprise, and I was shocked. I found out with the rest of the world, which is very typical Golda fashion, that you had cancer.
Right.
First of all, what a way to announce it.
Yeah.
Was there a reason you avoided the personal conversations?
Yeah.
Okay. What was the reason why you avoided the personal conversations?
I believe we all go through phases, and in some phases we have this trust and affinity with other people. We feel safe with many people, and then in certain phases of our life we find ourselves having less of that. And I believe that when I was diagnosed, I was in a phase of my life where I really had less connections with people.
Okay.
And the manner and the way in which I found out that I had cancer itself was a bit abrupt. It was just me going for routine tests for what I felt was premenopausal symptoms.
Okay.
Struggling, fatigue, having very, very puffy face, dealing with odd things, getting very dizzy. And then in the routine check, something was discovered in the area of my chin, my neck. And when a scan was done, they said, it looks like a lump, but if it's uncomfortable, we'll just take it out, like a cosmetic surgery.
Okay.
And then it was taken out, and in testing what it was taking out, then I was called and told, hello, you've got cancer.
Wow.
So that was how I found out, and it was for me, a struggle to process it, come to terms with it, and even figure out what to do, because the next question was, what next? And the doctors were like, it's not from where it was found. Where is it from? It's too differentiated.
Okay.
To tell. The cell it's too changed for us to tell exactly where. But what is clear is that it's come from somewhere, which means it's spread. Okay, so what does that mean? What next? We are not sure, because it means we have to pull different doctors and specialists together, and that takes time. How much time does it take? We are not sure. So everything was like, we don't know. We're not sure. There was no one person in charge, and my dad was panicking. I'm panicking, and what do you do, right? So, and knowing myself, when there's confusion, I go deeper inside, because I prefer to calmly think through when there's confusion. So that's when I retreated more inside. So by the time the news came out on Facebook, it was at the point where it was clear that a lot of things had to be done, which would need a lot of finances at the same time. And a few friends figured, I'm never going to ask for help. So then let's pull word out and then see how to bring in that. And of course, it was a shock for everybody.
It was a shock. I remember I read the post and I started crying, and I think I called someone. I was like, Golda is going to die. I was like, wow. I mean, I went from 0 to 100 because I think even from the perspective of those who are close to you and maybe those who are not as close to you, you always seem almost untouchable. You know what I mean? So all of a sudden there was a question of your mortality, like, oh, is this going to be the thing, you know, that breaks here, or that brings the end? I'm sure you had that kind of reaction from a lot of people. I mean, so
I did. I mean, growing up, I did find myself having to be more and more independent, and then the adult world made me feel like, because I'm already different, I've always been a bit neurodivergent, so it meant that I had to mask a lot and work hard to socially fit in, which means that I would become a bit toughened up in a certain way, right? So it's funny, but it was almost exactly like your Achilles heel being found in the most brutal way. That little weak spot really being located and completely taken out. And do you break down at that point, or do you stay strong? And I couldn't break down, because I'm single mom to 2 boys, and I'm self-employed. I've been self-employed for, by that time, 16 years. How do you break down?
You can't.
So then I'm like, then you have to find more strength, and you have to really just stay on the game. And I kept on telling everybody, as long as I'm not physically incapable, I will continue to work. I'm not going to decide now I'm bedridden. And that led to a lot of people actually accusing me of faking the cancer and calling me names and accusing me, and all these WhatsApp groups being created to say, okay, it's fake, you know, what's the proof? And it was not easy. It was brutal.
I can imagine. I was going to come to that, but since you've brought it up, when you put out the post about the cancer, and then I think it was Efua Kwanta who put out a post about raising money, which I know, because I know you, that she probably did that without telling you, or she did it and she told you after, or she did it after a very long argument, because you will not, you know. I mean, but I figured that opened the door then for people to feel entitled to, I don't know, a say which they feel like they've bought because they've donated. Was that what it was? Was that the beginning of all of these?
To be fair, I did receive a great amount of goodwill. And the nasty part was just a small percentage of the love and the outpouring of support. The outpouring of support was mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Honestly mind-blowing. And I remember we set out to raise about 70,000 CDs back then. That was 2022. And in 24 hours, we had more than that. And it was mind-blowing.
Yeah.
And there were more people reaching out to offer in kind, in cash. So I do not know whether it was in that process where people were feeling, I don't know why anybody would feel that way, but maybe there was a feeling of spite, jealousy, distrust, suspicion, that then these little things started coming up, like, it's not true, show proof, show evidence, why does she need the money, things like that will come up. It's still hard for me to understand.
Yeah, I think it's hard for anybody to understand. But then maybe then again, people who did that may not know you as well. So they would think that, I don't even know why. And if somebody says somebody's sick and you're giving them money, like, why would you then say, oh, if you think the person is lying, don't give.
Right.
But then otherwise it's none of your business.
Right.
I mean, but anyway, which is what I think. But
right.
Anyway, so there was that. So let's move on from all of that.
Right.
So now you had the cancer diagnosis. You're going about your business. I witnessed that. Yeah. The shock of, I remember when I saw you after the diagnosis, I think I came to your house, I was like, what are you, why are you doing, what are you, and you were cooking, and I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But I know that for you it's either I keep going.
Yes.
And I almost feel like at that time you had a fear of stopping.
Yes.
You did.
Yeah.
That if I stop and this thing takes over, that would be. Was your biggest fear because of the boys? Was that what really, kept you?
Yeah. Yes. And my dad, I guess. I mean, we weren't very close, me and my parents, growing up. Because I think I was just a different child. And it would have been difficult, right?
Because to be your parent?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I'm not the only child, and they're doing their best and they're juggling things, and they came from very humble backgrounds, so they were just very ambitious medical professionals doing their best, and they're busy all the time. And you have 4 children you're juggling. You can't put a special attention on one person. And I was very independent very early. So growing up, it was a lot. So we weren't very close, right? And then my mom got sick with cancer.
Yeah.
And she fought it for about 2 years. And it deteriorated her completely, emaciated her. It was brutal. It was awful. And I had my son just 5 months before she died.
Yeah.
So my mom and my dad being so close, naturally, with her going, he might have followed. Because we're so close. Till now, he's not married. And it's been 17 years.
Yeah.
And everybody kept saying, growing up, your dad was very fond of you. And you've had his first grandchild. You really should stay around and give him a purpose. So I stayed for about 3-4 years. I was living with him. And he practically raised my son. And so it felt... What was your question again?
What kept you? What was the driving force? Yeah.
It felt almost like the boys and my dad needed to know that there's not going to be another episode of my mom's tragedy.
Yeah.
Because it broke my dad down to a point where I was not sure if he could take it again in such close proximity.
Yeah.
And this time, not his wife, his daughter.
Yeah.
So I was very concerned about not breaking down for him. And then my son was 14, going 15 then. And we had grown up almost like friends. And he was so aware. I couldn't tell him. He found out by accident. I couldn't tell him. And I knew it would devastate him, right? So I was staying strong because my thinking, and my therapist later said, yeah, your thinking is that you have to be strong for people who are probably also trying to be strong for you.
Yeah.
And it was a big thing to learn how to let them
Be strong for
me. Yeah.
Have you succeeded in learning how to let them be strong for you?
It's a long journey.
Yeah. Which and you're at which point of the journey?
God is in control.
That's a good one. Okay, so there's another aspect of your journey that I wanted to talk about. It's when you had to travel out of the country. Maybe not so much to shed light on how lacking we are in our healthcare system when it comes to, almost some very basic things, but also the kind of toll that took on you and life in general at that point.
Yeah, right. So my second battle, or my first battle, was with the doctors, really, because normally to be called and told that you've got third stage or final stage cancer, you would want to know more than, okay, what is it?
Yeah.
You would want to know specific steps. You would want to know who to talk to. For me, there was nothing like that. Everybody kept saying we're finding people, we're putting it together. Then the days were passing, and now my parents were in the medical profession. My cousins, my uncles, doctors. So naturally, everybody will reach out, right? And so I had the privilege or the blessing of having very qualified top level doctors saying, have you done this? Have you spoken to this person? Should we schedule an appointment with so and so? And then in the meantime, some other doctors said, if you go about it that way, you will just step on toes and people will be offended because you're supposed to let somebody organize all these things. At the end of the day, it's my life.
Yeah.
And the doctors are qualified anyway. And if you're not moving at a top speed, because maybe you see death every day, so it's normal to you. But my life is singular, it's mine. So at the end of the day, I opted to do what I can while they did what they could. Because at the end of the day, it will be the same doctors anyway.
Is that a nice way of saying that at some point you took things into your own hands?
Yeah.
Okay, right. I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah.
So you took things into your own hands
I
away from
did.
doctors making decisions, and you started to decide that
they weren't making decisions. I was waiting.
Okay.
Right. I would have loved for them to make decisions, but everybody said, oh, unfortunately, almost all of them are away at a convention or something that's happening this week. They'll be back next week, and then we'll have to call a meeting and decide who is sitting on the board or the panel, and we don't know what you might do this or might. There was no call decision.
Okay.
Right. So friends started saying this and that, and then one or two people actually unofficially took the lead.
Okay.
I don't think they decided to. It's just that they were more consistent in checking in and recommending people, and their recommendations seemed to kind of start subsetting more and more. Like they had commonalities. So I said, okay, both of you are very good at the top of your game, and you're both mentioning these names over and over.
Let me go with
so should I engage these people then? And they helped to schedule. And I started engaging them, and then some doctors felt offended. I'm like, I don't know, like, what are you offended about? At the end of the day, we'll still come to your table anyway. It's not about who's leading. But I feel like the unspoken thing in this kind of space is that when a rare or unknown disease is found, people subconsciously desire to be in the lead of that, because that's how you sometimes write your research papers. You make breakthrough and lead in certain discoveries. Of course, people will say, oh no, that's not it, I don't mind, whatever. But at that point, it's my life, and I really don't care who's in the lead as long as you're helping me to figure out the next steps. So I went through with the 2 or 3 that were selected, and eventually the people that were offended, I had to work with some of them away. But like I said, I would still have to work with you people. But by that time, some people had decided that I'm a patient from hell. And so in treating me, they would have to show a certain level of authority. And so not knowing exactly what I had, they would make recommendations that were very wide sweeping.
Okay.
Things like you would need to probably undergo surgery immediately and take out certain body parts. But before you do that, you will need to do certain radiation checks. You will need to probably just go right on chemotherapy. You need to, and I would ask, okay, if you're going on chemotherapy, what exactly are you trying to kill? Is it the whole body?
Because you don't know exactly what
you don't
it is.
know.
Yeah.
Is there an alternative? Could you actually find out a bit more about which body parts might have been affected? Is there a machine like that? I was asking questions because I don't believe in just wholesale blasting yourself to kill all your body cells. If you are saying that the cancer has spread almost everywhere, it means that I could either choose to continue living healthy till I drop dead, or you're just going to kill me more painfully. Because I did see my mom suffer.
Yeah.
And if you ask me to choose, I'd rather not just kill myself painfully. Yeah. I'd rather just do what I'm doing, drop dead. Yeah. Right? But if you think that there is a chance to find it and address it directly, then I'm willing to do that. But you can't tell me exactly how you want to do that beyond telling me I'm not listening to your advice. Your advice is just saying submit to a widespread chemotherapy for areas you cannot tell me. Right? So if that makes me the patient from hell, it's fine. But by the way, what machine would you even use to determine some of these things? Then that's when I started finding out a lot of them practice theoretically, not practically, because we don't have the machines here. We have them in Kenya and South Africa, but we don't have them in Ghana. Why? Nobody can say why. So I said, if there's a machine that can tell me where the cancer is, it can actually tell me using a simple scan. Why are you not asking me to go do that and come back before you just try and kill my entire body? It's not, if it's about money and I have the money, can you just give me the paperwork to go and do that? Yeah. And people were thinking, I am telling them what to do. And we had a big fight about that. Right? But yeah, I don't regret it because in the end, I did get the chance to go and do that scan. Before that, there was so much fighting that it delayed things. So the doctors opted to take out a few things in the neck, figure out what to minimize spread, because where they found it, if it hits the thyroid, it goes everywhere. Okay. And normally cancer spreads faster when you've touched it. Okay. Right? So the fear is that when this thing was taken out, nobody thought it was cancer. So there are no clean edges. It may be spreading. Yeah. And so they need to take out the thing that was spread it most. They took that out. And then right away, I went to do the tests. And the test came back indicating that there was something, but most of it seems to have been taken out or removed. And even though there are lingering signs, it's kind of like a leftover. Okay. They cannot tell till a year or two when you come back and do it again. But they recommended certain other organs that needed to be taken out based on the level of activity they were seeing. And that was very helpful. It was a simple issue. Helpful. It shouldn't have been a fight. But unfortunately it was, right? And that made me a bit sad because if I hadn't had these doctors who had unofficially stepped in to help, I would just have been wandering around.
All the strength of character to stand up to.
Right. I would just have been wandering around and become another case. So I came back with the results, and since then it's been helpful, very helpful in managing and controlling a lot of things, next steps, further lab tests, how to manage the health, keep an eye on things. So that's, yeah.
That was that part. I also, I'm privy to the fact that period was also a difficult time for you.
Personal life,
emotionally.
Yeah.
I would never push you to share more than what you're comfortable with. But what was that?
I can tell you. He walked, he laughed. Listen, One of the things that one of the doctors said very early when we started going for the checks, he said something, and I found it striking. I didn't find it weird. I found it striking. He said, you keep coming to these meetings with your partner. You're not married. I've seen a lot of marriages disintegrate before the end. So you have to be sure you still want him to keep coming, because the more they see, sometimes the less eager they are to be there. And he said he had seen a lot of men walk or quiet quit when their spouses, their wives, their girlfriends get certain kind of illnesses. And I found it striking because at that time I thought it's very bold of him to say that, but I appreciate his boldness. It didn't occur to me that it will happen. It would really happen.
Like, oh, it's happened to other people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't occur to me what really happened, but it did. It did. And the quiet quitting started, and I convinced myself that's not it. But I convinced myself that's not, because I felt like, well, if you're still actively doing things for yourself, what do you expect someone to do? And then my dad will say, like, well, men struggle with these things in their own way. You know, maybe he needs therapy, maybe he needs some time to process. Everybody was afraid I would die or not make it. Maybe he's handling it in his own way. Till now, I can't tell you what it was, because he decided never to talk about it. He just decided that, yeah. And he said that it's not because of the illness he was leaving. It was just because of my attitude. But hey, I'm dealing with a lot here.
Yeah.
My attitude is not because I just want to piss you off, right? So in a way, I just made my peace with the fact that if that's how he makes his peace with leaving, it's fine. You can't force someone to stay with you and love you. Even on normal relationships, my whole policy has always been that when I was with my son's, fathers, because I've been married and divorced twice, if someone says, I'm not into it anymore, I've got a girlfriend, or I'm not into it anymore, I'm going to be abusive to you, there's no confusion for me. That's the end. Nobody should be forcing another adult to treat them right, or to love them, or to support them, right? So it wasn't difficult for me to just respect that. He's someone's child. He's his own human being. He doesn't owe me heaven and earth. It would have been nice for him to do that. But if he's happier elsewhere, it's fine.
I think the issue with that is always the timing.
Yeah, but maybe if he'd stayed, it would have been worse off, right? That's what I tell myself.
How did you cope with it? Because having somebody present there all the time, to having someone so abruptly just walk away when you're literally fighting for your life. How did you cope with it?
Just another blessing from God. Oh, wow. Thank you, God. I remember I used to say that a lot. Like, oh, wow, amazing. You love me, God? Really? Is this how you show it? Like, wow. And people will go like, yeah, maybe God knows best. I'm like, yeah, he better do, because this is wild.
Painful, yeah.
This is wild. But then you take it a day at a time. And I always used to tell my sister, my sister and I are very close, and she would check in. I would tell her, listen, if it weren't for my children, I would probably have offed myself long ago. But the minute I decided it's not in the question, then it means I'm here. And if I'm here, I fight. Every day I have to make the choice. You have to choose to fight and make the most of the day. You have to make the best of your situation. And another thing I always say, and we laugh about it, I always tell her, whenever we're driving around and we are stressed out, I always tell her, hey, happiness is free, suffering is free. You can choose, right? You can choose your suffering, you can choose your happiness. And the nice thing is that you can choose both. you may be suffering, but you can also be happy.
Yeah.
Right? So it's a choice, and that's how I approached it. Like, if you have a choice, why do you want to get stuck with the all for one? Choose something that makes it better. And I think that's kind of how I got through. You know, of course, amazing friends. You were there. If I was checking in, there were people who were checking in from everywhere around the world. People I didn't even remember that existed because we hadn't talked in so long. People sharing stories about how my fighting the cancer was really compelling them to also do the most for themselves. And it helps. Telling people that your journey is making a difference in mine.
Yeah, yeah.
We take it for granted that it doesn't do anything. It does a lot, because it did a lot for me.
For you, yeah.
And yeah, I feel like maybe I haven't said enough for people, but everybody who messaged me, who made a post, who made a comment, even those who think I didn't see it, it made a big difference for me, you know.
Yeah, that was a tough time. Mm-hmm. And then you decided, so at this point you had started to get better. It's actually difficult to tell the difference between when you were sick, when you started getting better, and now that you're better, because your outlook has remained the same. Mm-hmm. The way that you behave has remained the same. Mm-hmm. You didn't slow down, you know, so, but anyway, now we know that, you know, you're better. The journey is not quite over. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But you're definitely, I may be wrong, but in a better place. Yeah. You know, at least health-wise, than back then. So then you decided that you were going to give back.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What was that like, and what did it mean for you to be able to set up the safe space that you did?
I think I've always been giving back for as long as I can remember. Our university days, everything, giving back. And when
I remember, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I remember there was some time, I saw this Facebook post in the middle of all of this where, you know, you were like, oh, you had donated some money to somebody who was sick and now you were raising funds for somebody. I read the post, I was like, I think I called you. I'm like, bro, like, you haven't finished being sick.
Yeah.
Like, and now you are like donating to people who are sick and raising money for people. Like, can we finish your sickness before we move on?
Yeah. You know, there's an indescribably huge amount of darkness in this world, right? It stuns me every time when I come across how people can be mean and nasty to each other for no reason. And whenever I find myself in a space where I feel people are ready to support because of me or through me, I like to let it reach as many people as possible. And in all the giving that I was receiving, I believed at the time generally that I probably wouldn't make it, right? And I remember telling my doctor and my partner that it's just 1% of what I had received in donations that I'm even giving. And you might pump all these medications to me and I might still die. But what if I'm able to help 2 or 3 people who may have same chances of recovery as me? It doesn't hurt. Because, you know, when people see you receiving a lot of help online, naturally some reach out. Some of them are scammers, but there were really genuine ones who really needed help. And I felt like it's very bold for people to reach out and say, if anybody else has this to offer, can you direct it to my dad or my mom?
It's desperate.
It's yeah. And you don't kick someone when they are down like that. No. And it didn't take a lot to help. And for me, it felt like I had to account for these donations anyway. So I did send out some to some very needy people, and I just let people know that some of your donations has gone to help more people. It's not just coming to one source. Maybe you're saving other lives through that, you know. They always say that you save one person, you save an entire generation, right? You never know who you're helping. So that was why. And then at a point, I was asking what people might need, because people were asking me, what do you need? And at the point, I had huge boxes of medications I didn't need. So I remember I started giving some of them out because I knew I would never need them. And they were very expensive medication. And there were people who were seeking some of that. They couldn't afford it. And so I gave them out because why should it sit here?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That was that. Did you get criticized for that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, people criticize everything, don't they?
What is there to criticize about that, though?
I don't know. I mean, before I fell ill, I was probably not the most favorite person for a lot of people because I openly condemn a lot of nonsense, a lot. Like, if it's nonsense, I'll tell you it's nonsense. And because I did a lot of work in the political space, sometimes behind the scenes, sometimes openly, people will target you because this country is very political. Right? So it feels like now is a time.
Tell me about it.
Now is a time for them to tell you all sorts of things, and they get one little opportunity, they want to use that. So it wasn't a surprise to me.
To have people come at you for anything, really, just
it wasn't a surprise.
A chance to say something.
Yes.
So you did, all of this, and then you set up the safe space, and that ran for a while. And now we're here. So how are you now? After everything that has gone on for the past few years, how are you now?
I would say I've grown up a lot, spiritually, especially. There's something about that really makes you more aware of everything that's beyond, the mortal level of things. And I tune in a lot more. I take more time to get upset about things. It takes me a lot to get angry nowadays. I laugh a lot about things people say and do because, perspective, So I would say generally I'm calmer now. I've also been able to very easily shed off a lot of the things I used to be concerned about, like financial issues and things. Like if I know how much I'm earning 3 months from now, I'm good. I'm not stressing myself thinking about way
Too
over
far,
there.
Yeah.
Which means that now I take jobs that really fulfill me. I'm not going to just go crazy and do something that just breaks me down, tries to buy my soul, things like that. I'm doing more that help people, more things that help people. Overall, I think I'm better. I mean, of course, people ask me, are you dating? I'm single and mingling.
Yeah.
I think I probably have increased my standards a bit more now. Or maybe, I don't know. I speak my mind more now.
There's no doubt about that.
So, like, if you approach me and you're being silly, I will tell you. I'm not looking to giggle my way through,
Yeah, I've experienced. The less said on that, the better.
Yeah.
But
but if somebody out there is looking for someone to take care of them and to take care of somebody, and you have sense, please hit me up.
Oh, okay. I wasn't expecting that. Okay, yeah. How do we contact you for dating?
Those who want to will find a way.
Wow. Okay. Well,
because by the time they arrive, they'll be stressed out, and that's the best time to assess. You feel me?
Whether they are capable.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So apart from all these things, including being single and ready to mingle and be a Pringle, is the fact that you're a mom.
Yeah.
To 2 boys. I'm especially thankful for your youngest because you have met your meter.
I tell you.
But I think it's interesting. You're neurodivergent. Your kids are all of you are on.
I think my dad started that flow.
Okay.
Or maybe his mom. His mom was amazingly, intensely different. And back then, I don't know how she survived. But she was something else.
Okay.
And I got a chance to experience her a bit. And I growing up, I understood why my dad was the way he was. My dad can do anything and everything. Anything and everything. And I'm not talking about just like the intangible. He can fix anything. He can draw like a professional. He's a pharmacist. He can fix things mechanically. Like, I don't know what he can do. And he's also really intuitive.
Yeah.
So he used to be like a mom, dad. He still is.
Yeah.
I remember learning how to handle my children. He taught me how to bath them, how to hold them, everything. So growing up, I struggled a lot. But he always used to say, we don't put labels on these things. You find a solution, right? And even when I started trying to describe the children that way, he kept on saying, I understand him. But sometimes giving something a name is how you're able to face it, isn't it? It's not been easy. And for my boys, I think I'm still finding ways to manage they're so different in their divergency, and it's not easy to figure it out. But
what do you mean they're different?
The first one can practically just, you know how you can just plug in a machine and switch it on, it will just take care of itself. He can do that. Sometimes I'm falling over myself to find out if he's okay. He doesn't want much. He doesn't need much. He performs top notch all the time. He's just going, what do you need? I'm okay, Mom. I'm okay. He's so wise. He's helping me in everything. Sometimes I feel bad. Like, I feel like I'm a problem to him. You know, like he's so grown up and he's understanding. And I'm like, are you sure you're okay? You know, like, what do you need? And then the second one is like, oh, hello. I'm going to make sure you don't want another child after me because I'm trouble.
Yeah.
I'm fully trouble. And it's like every passing minute, you have to be keeping your eye on him, checking in on him. And he's so smart. He can figure you out and figure out how to outsmart you. And when you catch him, he has perfect responses. And then he's trying to charm his way out of it.
Wow.
I mean,
it's a lot.
It's a lot.
You know what's interesting, though? So you're talking about kids who are neurodivergent and on the spectrum,
right?
But you're speaking so positively about them,
right?
Which I think we don't hear enough of, because when we talk about neurodivergence or autism or OCD or whatever it is, there's always so much negativity. And to be fair, it's not easy, but it's nice to hear you speak positively of them, which I guess maybe goes to tell us that there's a way to channel the autism or the ADHD or all of those things into a way that makes it positive. So the question is, how do we do that? Because you have a kid and you're thinking, oh, my child is going to be normal.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And then suddenly they're growing up and they're showing signs of autism or ADHD or dyslexia or something.
Yeah.
How do you take that reality which you weren't expecting and transform it into something positive like you have with your kids? And is it easier because you yourself are, so to a certain extent you understand? I didn't understand my son. I still don't understand him. He has ADHD and I don't get it.
Right.
My sister gets it because she is also neurodivergent. So is it easier when you're neurodivergent to have neurodivergent kids, or can you give us the formula for making it work?
I think neurodivergent moms struggle more because all we want is peace. And we're like, why did I give birth? Why did I do this? But at the same time, you love them so fiercely because you really, truly understand them. Yeah. So the blame is also huge. You self-blame a lot, right? I think that we've always had neurodivergence. It's just that probably back then nobody has the time to say it's a diagnosis, it's a challenge. Nobody looks at it as a challenge. You are raised to fit in to society and not be a burden, unless of course your intellectual ability is so low that obviously then people really have to look out for you. But once you are different but you are intellectually capable and you can be raised to be mature, whether it's through the cane or it's through discipline or it's through how every family member makes you realize it's not an excuse, you will fit in. And I feel like maybe I do a mix of that because I was raised like that. Like, it's not an excuse. You're different. The world doesn't really owe you reciprocity to say, oh, this is how you are, so we're giving you that. The world doesn't care. So if you want to survive, you are the one who unfortunately has to do the work, right? Because you're in the minority. You have to fit in. And that has been most of my work, learning how to fit in. It's difficult. You have to learn how to have your...
I'm sorry, when did you start learning how to fit in? Because I feel as you've gotten older, you've unlearned how to fit in. Because you make absolutely no effort to fit in anymore. I think when we were in Wesley Girls, it was you were trying to fit in.
Right.
Now you don't
I
try
don't
to
care
fit
anymore.
in. You don't care. Everybody gets exactly like
they get it as it is.
it's terrible. Like, and I'm watching you when we're driving. I was like, I don't want to know you when you are 60, because like I've known you since we were 13 or 14. And it's like, it's getting worse.
Maybe it's getting worse because I've lived, isn't it? We're getting into 43, 44 years now. And honestly, if you're getting close to 50, you've lived. And at that point in time, who are you trying to fool? Right? Your energy goes more into things that matter. But yeah, I raise my children on that same recipe that, listen, you have to try and fit in. No, I'm not saying
do they believe
dilute. Listen, the world is cruel. I think they've experienced it. The older one definitely has experienced it. So he is finding ways. And when he gets home, he decompresses heavily. He will just go to his room. He will do the things that just decompress him. Because if he has to go back out and engage and deal with all that, and he loves people and people love him, but it's a lot, isn't it? So he's found his way, and I love that for him. I don't know how when he goes into university and he meets even more of the world, he will cope, but I love that he's doing well. The younger one, I'm hoping he will get there. He can get up, leave the classroom, go join another class, and the teachers are amazing in how accommodating they are, but it can be stressful. So I'm raising them to understand that there are times where you will become more aware of your difference, and when you do become aware of your difference, don't make it a big fight about they owing you. See what you can do to try and fit in, because at the end of the day, you are super capable. The speed at which you process, the intelligence level is super capable. You can catch up faster. So think about it that way, and then catch up or slow down if you need that. But look at yourself as a super machine, and the world is a normal machine place. And just, try and blend in. So I hope it helped, but I don't give them the chance to say, oh, I'm different and I can't do it.
But you know what's funny though, and my son said this to me when he was home from midterm, was we were having a conversation about him struggling with being different and the ADHD and all of that, and he said, I don't want people, he said, Mommy, I know I'm different, but I don't want people to know I am different. And that broke my heart, because I see him constantly trying to be normal, and I'm like a go fighter for be different, like be different, like yay, that's always been but how do your kids cope with knowing that they are different? Do they also want to hide their difference? Or I'm sure Ayan has reached the stage where he's quite comfortable with being...
It's not comfortable. There's someone who is scoring almost perfect scores everywhere. You can be really hated in school for just being effortlessly good, right? The younger one doesn't care yet, right? I think what I always tell them is that when you're super capable, the world will have a use for you as and when it wants. And the world will throw you under the bus as and when it wants. And they will dispose of you
as and when
it wants. And I've raised them to understand that when it happens, and it will happen more than once, you should not let that diminish your self-worth, your self-worth, or your confidence in yourself. But the world does not love your intelligence it loves the benefit of your intelligence.
As and when
it needs it.
That, yeah.
Right. And that's what I tell them, because I've experienced it a lot of times. People will tap into me like, hey, we really need you. And then they throw you under the bus because you are seeing too much, you understand too much. So I never fit in. And I've become aware of when I'm needed and when I'm not. And when I see you about to throw me under the bus, I know how to just leave before you damage me. Right. And it's not easy, but unfortunately, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
The fact that you don't fit in, but you fit in my house, makes me question my household. First of all, we're all. Anyway, that was just, by the way. But thank you so much for sitting down to have this conversation with me. I know that you have not spoken about a lot of the things that we spoke about here. And let me just say thank you for trusting me with your story. We had a long chat where I was thoroughly insulted before we got on the show. But yes, that's the cost of friendships that last a lifetime.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't talk about all this with anybody else.
Yeah, you said so over and over and over again. But okay, Nana Kwesi says, who's she again? God, I like her already. Due to the orientation of who a woman must be, I like women who defy the odds and do things their way and not what they're told to do like zombies. I like her thinking and mindset. I wish I could befriend her. Nana Kwesi, the challenge has been thrown. If you can find her, you can befriend her. But she's on Facebook. Shouldn't be too difficult to find. Thank you so much. And shout outs to the kids and Daddy and Lona and the whole family. I'm sure that they're listening. And thanks to you guys for staying tuned in. My name is Animwaa Anim-Addo. This has been Strong and Sassy. We've been live on Facebook, so if you missed any parts of this conversation, you can just go to the Joy 99.7 FM page and you can watch the interview just in case you missed any parts of it. A big thank you to my production team and once again, Golda, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's it for us. Stay safe. We're handing over to the news team for the 8 o'clock news.